David Dow was a regular passenger on United Airlines Flight 3411 from Chicago to Louisville on April 9th, 2017. He was headed to Louisville to perform a surgery. The flight had been overbooked, and crew members asked paying customers if they were willing to give up their seat, and no one came forward. Dr. Dow was then dragged off of this flight after he refused to give up his seat, which would go to a United Airlines crew member that was needed for a flight from Louisville. Dr. Dow left this incident with a broken nose, broken teeth, and a concussion. Oscar Munoz had recently been named the Communicator of the Year in March of 2017, which was a month prior to this incident. He released a statement that said, "This is an upsetting event to all of us here at United. I apologize for having to reaccommodate these customers. Our team is moving with a sense of urgency to work with authorities and conduct our own detailed review of what happened. We are also reaching out to this passenger to talk directly with him and further address and resolve the situation."
There were myriad reasons this incident became such a PR nightmare. For one, the apology that was issued by CEO Oscar Munoz was tepid at best and filled with legalese, namely using the phrase reaccommodation rather than calling it out as an egregious and unnecessary use of force contributed to the backlash. Secondly, the memo he issued internally further bolstered the public's opinion that United Airlines did not feel remorse for nor care about the impact on the passengers. He offered support to his employees and reiterated that he had their backs, but didn't say much in the way of lambasting the incident on the flight. Beyond those two communications, there was barely any media campaign to save the public image of the airline. No news interviews were done. The lack of transparency from the airline as to why it was so crucial for these 4 crew members to have a place on the flight made the airline seem self-serving and suspicious. The incident might have been avoided entirely had they been honest. Just a couple weeks prior to this incident, United Airlines went viral for other negative reasons when they ejected a woman from a flight for wearing leggings, citing it was against a dress code policy. Celebrities even jumped on this story to decry it, so their image was already tarnished. United Airlines said they were looking into the situation but offered no plan going forward of one, how they would rectify the mistake and compensate the passengers involved, especially Dow, or how they would prevent future incidents, such as through change in processes or employee training.
Customers posted videos and pictures of them cutting their credit cards. They did to support Dr. Dow, and customers said they will never use United Airlines again. This was the last straw for many. So what should United do? Well, first, they should address the mistreatment. Understand every employee working for United represents the company. Therefore, every employee's actions are the company's duty to inspect and speak up for. Should make a public apology, especially to Dr. Dow, and also offer compensation. Some more things they should do is sway public opinion through the media, eliminate any potential future problems. They must communicate clearly with the media, separate themselves from Chicago aviation security, say they're not condoning the behavior, do some employee training, and also address shareholders and stockholders because they lost money.
In this slide, we will be discussing the implications for the practice of PR. From this case study, we can draw that the public opinion is quick to change. Just a month before this incident, Oscar Munoz, who is the CEO of United Airlines, was named Communicator of the Year by PR Week. PR Week announced during this incident that it is safe to say that they would not have chosen Oscar Munoz as a Communicator of the Year now if they were rewarding it. Warren Buffett once said, "It takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 years to earn it." This is especially true in cases of PR. So, what can other companies and us as students learn from this case study? Well, for starters, we can learn that the reactive and recovery processes are vital for a company's well-being. As we discussed in class, most of the time, it is unknown the conflicts that will lay ahead. And as much as it's important to be proactive, as well as discussed during the strategic phases, it is likely that all companies will also deal with reactive and recovery, and mostly deal with reactive and recovery conflicts, or phases in the conflict. And so with this, it's important to remember that word choice matters. One of the most unsettling things that much of the public acknowledged was that the CEO, Oscar Munzo, used the word to reaccommodate. He was apologizing for reaccommodating these customers. And this word really stuck out to people because they didn't feel like it was severe enough, that it was just a simple means of accommodating someone and having to reaccommodate someone. And that really bothered the public. So just being aware of word choice is extremely important when dealing with these recovery phases. Another thing is that companies must take responsibility for their actions as well as provide a proper apology when needed. So in this case, we can look and notice that the thing that most outraged people not only was that this reactive phase of learning that they had too many people on board and then they decided just to take one out by force was a problem, but also that the CEO really diminished it. And so when we look at that, we can either note that when discussing the crisis, it can either be responded to by denying it, diminishing it, or repairing it. And this leaned much more towards diminishing the conflict than trying to repair it due to his word choice. And so what can be applied to this in PR? So one thing that can be noted is that proper training is very important in these situations. So this should have been something that all the security guards and all the everyone working in the area should have learned how to properly manage. And this would be a part of just the proactive, knowing that they do overbook and this is eventually going to become a problem. So how do they handle this problem? Another thing is that can be applied is that protocols should change if it causes harm to customers. So in this case, the airlines booked too many people, so maybe that practice isn't okay. Maybe that practice should be changed. And it's a good thing to change if it's harmful for customers.
Is how quickly a company's image can change in the public eye. Prior to the incident, United Airlines was having one of its most profitable years in history. The CEO had just recently been named Communicator of the Year. It was actually not an employee of United Airlines that instigated the violent removal of David Dow from the plane. Rather, it was an officer of Chicago Aviation Security who had been called to mitigate the refusal of David Dow to leave the flight. And yet, the public responded favorably to how Chicago Aviation Security handled the incident. They responded immediately by placing the offending officer on leave pending an investigation and made it clear they don't condone that kind of behavior. So even though it was their industry that perpetrated the attack, it was United Airlines that received the backlash. This has everything to do with the response. United Airlines took very little accountability, showed very little remorse, and made no effort to revise policies or include training that would prevent such incidents in the future.
And here is a picture of the phases of the conflict management lifestyle that we were just previously discussing when we were discussing the implications for the practice of PR. And this is just going through the proactive, the strategic, the reactive, and the recovery. And as we discussed beforehand, there can be proactive and strategic things that are done before a conflict actually officially arises. So things that are just that they could have seen, such as the proper training that we talked about, or the changes to the rule book, which could also be seen as a recovery. So maybe it is something that they noticed in the beginning and they decided to go ahead and change it, or at the strategic time, or after this incident, maybe it is something as part of their recovery system. So just that, as we look at the case study, how can these be properly applied?
Questions and answers are group considered for a discussion portion of this case study. How could have United expressed that their flight was overbooked in a more compassionate manner? They should have introduced that the flight had been mistakenly overbooked. If people refused to take their offer of compensation, then they should have resorted to great lengths of compensation, such as more money or moving them to first class on a different flight. How has United Airlines recovered their image? United was quick to apologize for the incident on social medias when the video was going viral. They were under a spotlight and needed to be cautious of their every move. On their website, they emphasized that they are here to help and even have a tab for corporate information that gives customers an insight on the behind the scenes of United. How did this incident create a conversation about race? David Dow is of Asian descent. Although he did not blame the crew members of the flight for the incident, many people believe that the root of the incident was race and is why Dow was dragged off the plane. And finally, how did Munoz Communicator of the Year award affect this incident? Many people believe that United let this award get to their head. Now that the CEO had received this award, the company did not uphold its standards of customer service. That concludes our presentation. Thank you.